Hey everybody, it's Spectral Sailor. I'm Rosie and this is Jason. And we have a special guest tonight, and his name is Tom. And we're gonna let him introduce himself. And he is a Bigfoot enthusiast, and we're gonna talk Bigfoot with him tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on here with y'all.
So you wanna tell them the name of your Bigfoot association, or
Sure.
what your like kind of like your ethos, or your like like your vision, or like the reason you do this stuff is?
Yeah. So this is Southern Utah Bigfoot Association, and mostly I gather people's accounts and get out and look for my own evidence in the Intermountain West, and focus a lot on Southern Utah and the different southwestern Native nations.
Awesome.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of Bigfoot um cases yet. We have like a one that we're trailing or whatever. We actually need to make a second or third trip even out to a location and interview some more people in the local areas at this camp and this other area near Stillwell, Oklahoma. We're
Cool.
from Oklahoma. Huh?
Y'all are in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we live close to Stillwell and Talakal, which is like a pretty heavy, and a Broken Bow also, which is like a really heavily, um, I guess, Bigfoot enthusiast area, Bigfoot spotting area. Yeah,
Cool. I was
so we have,
curious. Yeah,
yeah.
when I heard your voice, I was curious where you're from. I'm originally from the south too, but I just live out west.
Yeah, you were like, where is that accent from, man? I get to
I'm from
ask that a lot.
Mississippi, but I'd have been wrong.
Mississippi. We have friends there. Yeah, I love Mississippi. But I know Jason's probably dying to ask you some questions because he's a Bigfoot fanatic and a UFO fanatic, and I'm going to let him take over for a minute while I share this page out, and I'll see if I can share it onto your page too. So if there's anyone that follows you, then they can join us on the chat. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so Utah's a pretty hotbed for all that activity. As far as there's I've heard all kinds of things from Bigfoot to, like she said, UFOs and of course anything like paranormal wise is a hotbed. But of course, then you also have the Skinwalker Ranch area and all that up there. I don't know if you've been close to that area, but if you have, can you say anything about that?
Yeah, that's cool. You know about that, man. There's a lot of people out here in Utah that you'll hear Skinwalker Ranch come up in conversation occasionally, but you just your average, person, if you were to bring it up in a bar or something, they'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?" But yeah, I have been out there. So that's kind of near a place called Vernal, Utah, which is out on the Colorado border. And I also am a traveling musician. And on my first tour, I was on tour with a guy that spent some time in the oil fields out there. And we stopped for gas, and he mentioned, "Hey, Skinwalker Ranch?" And I'd read about it. And he was like, "Well, it's only like 10 miles away from here. You want to go grab a six-pack of beer and sit out in the van and see if we see anything?" So we pulled up in the driveway of Skinwalker Ranch and drank a six-pack of beer and sat out for 4 or 5 hours. We didn't really get out and snoop around too much because there's a lot of private property, but it was a cool night. I can't say that we had anything paranormal happen, but it was a lot of fun being there and just getting a little psyched out thinking about all the stories of the area.
Yeah, they say that whole general area right there is really a hotbed. From everybody from the locals or from like the Indians that live up there, or all the folklore and all that stuff from that area. Um,
For sure.
I've always been interested in it. We know somebody lives right kind of next to it, so
Yeah, one of the ladies that has another show on the Paranormal United Network, which is where we broadcast, she lives right by there.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jennifer Lee is her name.
if you happen to recall later, please send me a link to her show and I'll check it out.
All right. Yeah,
Cool.
she's a psychic medium, and she's on several different shows. I think she's about to be on a show on Wednesday nights that I'm a part of. There she is. She's right there. Can you see the comments where it says Jennifer S. Lee?
No, I can't see any comments, but I
I
don't know.
keep talking.
Right there.
Oh,
She said,
yep. Yep.
I
Just
live
pop
in Vernal. She lives in Vernal.
Vernal. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I played the Vernal 4th of July party, not this year, but last year. Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. Hi,
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Jennifer and Pamela. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
But yeah, you mentioned Utah being a hotbed, and it is. It's really cool, and like beyond Bigfoot, like every area you go to, has its own like folklore with ghost stories and things like that. And Utah's really interesting. So I grew up in Georgia, moved to Utah 2002, so quite a while ago. And I lived in a big mansion up in the avenues of Salt Lake, and it was old and run down. And a lot of people told stories, and I even experienced things there where the ghosts were the ghost of polygamous children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That's a side note, but this is fascinating.
What is it? Polygamous children?
Yeah, Utah. Utah comes from a Mormon background, and there was a lot of people that practiced polygamy out here, and there still are. But I don't know. Some of the ghost stories.
That's crazy.
Experience about that. Sorry about all this weird light coming in. I'm trying to.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just sharing. Still, I'm sharing.
There we go.
Sharing. We usually have quite a few viewers, but my messenger is deleted out of my phone, and that's usually where I share a lot. But I did share it to the page that I sent the link to for you. So if anyone follows your page and they're on and they see, then they can join us and whatnot
Cool.
if they want to ask any questions.
I'll share it on my other social media links after the fact too, because I haven't put a lot of effort and time into building the Southern Utah Bigfoot Association, but through my music stuff, I can reach a lot more people.
Yeah, you have your name on your shirt. That's a Bigfoot face, right, underneath it.
This is,
I like that.
That's my band merch. So I got this shirt, and I've got another one with a different Sasquatch image, and it says Tom Bennett Outlaw Country across the bottom.
Okay.
That's cool. I like that photo of the Bigfoot on there.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool one. I like ones that are more realistic, there's a lot of cartoony stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
They're kind of scarier too.
Yeah, it's a little bit menacing. He's a little creepy.
He's like, pity the fool, like a wrestling face.
For sure.
James said, sorry, if someone has a comment and it comes up and I think it's directed towards you, then I usually read it out loud.
Okay.
Just in case for some reason you don't see it or whatever. The Pacific Northwest is allegedly a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings.
That is true. That's
supposed to.
Yeah, I think so. Now you did mention you moved from Georgia, right?
Georgia's a hotbed too, especially the part I grew up in. I grew up 30 minutes west of Atlanta, called the Piedmont region. It's kind of the foothills that lead up
I love Georgia.
The Appalachian Mountains, the Smokies, and all that.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of. That's what got me into it. I grew up really rural on a little hay farm, and what originally got me into the whole Bigfoot phenomenon is we lived in a little farmhouse on about 90 acres. And I remember looking out the window one morning, I must have been like 7 or 8. And I thought I saw a Bigfoot standing there, just staring. And I saw it every morning after that for a while. And it got me really curious. And I was like, screw it, I got to go see, it's always out there. And the fact that it was always in the same spot had me leaning more towards it's probably not going to be a Bigfoot, but I got to go look. So I remember throwing my 20 gauge shotgun on my back and grabbing some shells and trying to sneak up on this thing. And it took me getting within, 30 yards. And I've got good eyesight to finally be like, oh, I see what it is. And what it was a dead pine tree had snapped off in a windstorm at about 8 feet tall. And moss had grown over it, and it looked like a head and shoulders. Even super close, it still looked like Bigfoot. But
it was in Georgia.
Yeah, and it got me into it. And of course, moving to Utah later, as was said, Utah it's got a lot of sightings throughout the state, but also a lot of sightings that were caught on video.
Yeah. That's the most interesting if you can actually capture on video some kind. Sometimes, unfortunately, like the videos we get, very high quality, and I know it has a lot to do with people's adrenaline and freaking out and and all that stuff. But it's the same thing. Like when you look at
That's funny.
When you look at UFOs, the same thing. It's why we don't really get a lot of great pictures. I think just because people are trying to hurry up and snap a picture, and it's
I see
I used
that.
to live in Dalton, Georgia back in the 90s, and I'm originally from Midland and Odessa, Texas, but I was born in Fort Smith, Arkansas. He lives close to us. It's one of our peoples,
yeah.
Very cool.
local peoples. Yeah,
I've
I
done
like.
those down in Texas, but I haven't been to Midland or Odessa. Uh, and Arkansas is one of the handful of states I haven't been to yet, but I hear great things. I want to go. I hear it's beautiful.
If
Probably
you
a
like
hot
to camp
stuff.
or hike, camping, hiking, boating, or actually, there's a lot of places here that have country music or like rugged country or whatever you said, like outlaw country. There's a lot of bars here because I know several people that play that kind of music around here
Very
in
cool.
the around the area. Yeah.
I did some shows in Oklahoma years ago, in what was it, Norman, Oklahoma,
Yeah, I used to live right by there.
and I did one. It was called the Red Brick Bar, I want to say, and then I did one. I want to say in Tulsa, and I think that was about all I got to see of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's been like 8 years ago, though.
Oh, wow. Man.
Tulsa's a pretty big place. Jennifer said, "What do you think of the one in Provo Canyon in 2019? The video."
Okay, I do know what you're talking about. There's a video. I think it was like two teenagers. It was like a guy and a girl, and there was something underhandedly lobbing rocks at them. Um, okay, so I like to see all the videos and pictures I can. It fascinates me. I like to see the fake ones too, and you can learn a lot from the fake ones and the ones that are potentially real. Of course, they're fascinating for their own reasons. That being said, it's really difficult with almost all picture and video to determine if it's really a Sasquatch or not. But that video was compelling. It was interesting. I enjoyed seeing it. Uh, I can't say for sure if I think it was real or not, but I will tell you that I personally, not long after that happened, went up Provo Canyon really late at night with a bunch of apples. I made some calls and stuff and stayed up there all night long and listened. And in the morning, I got up and I followed some game trails pretty far up into the mountains. And I found some very interesting things that were difficult to explain as anything but Sasquatch. For example, there was a plant growing that was probably about, it was like a tuft of grass by a little spring. And it was probably about, I don't know, it's about 5.5 inches, and something had grabbed it from the top and reached all the way around it. And with one hand movement, scraped the whole plant out of the ground. You could see where all the fingers had left marks. And the fingerprints, the length of the fingers from the palm to the tip of the finger were probably about 17, 18 inches.
Wow.
Whoa, that's some
I,
big fingers.
I found a twisted piece of pine, that something had put under extreme torque and twisted, similar to ones I've seen in Dr. Jeff Meldrum's lab up in Pocatello, Idaho. And then finally, and this was before I knew Dr. Jeff Meldrum, if I had known him already, I would have handled it a lot different. I found a large tuft of coarse red hair, probably about 7, 8 inches long by about 3 inches wide. And I took pictures of it. That was all I did. If I'd have found it now, I would have bagged it and sent it off for DNA analysis to Dr. Meldrum. But again,
Yeah.
at the found it, I didn't know I could do that. And I hadn't met him yet. Provo Canyon has got some numerous sightings have been talked about there. I know of 2 that were caught on camera, including the one you're mentioning. And there's the one where the Bigfoot's walking along the mountain. That one I do find quite compelling because they did analysis on how tall it would have been. And it would have been quite large if it was walking on that rugged, snowy mountain. I hope that's a decent answer for you.
Man, that'd be cool if you did keep that hair.
I know. I wasn't thinking clearly.
What we know now that we didn't know then, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. James said, "I'm not sure, but I think there have been some Bigfoot sightings in the Canadian forests."
Absolutely, quite a few.
Yep.
And what's interesting is the Bigfoot phenomenon. They're similar to wolves in the fact that wolves range from they call it like body dimorphism, I think. Basically, the smallest wolves live in desert environments, and the largest ones live in Canada and in the Arctic because they need more mass to maintain body heat. So the Bigfoot sightings that come out of Canada are usually really large individuals, and there's some awesome and very, very compelling videos out of Canada. I don't remember what the one was called, but my favorite one I've seen recently was just a few months ago, where somebody zoomed in on an alpine forest, and you could see something standing underneath the trees like this with its head down, and you can see that they're kind of just blowing and the snow caught in it, and you couldn't see the face or any hands, but the video was very high definition, and the type of hair that was shown there, I mean, it didn't look like anything else I'm aware of that lives in the Canadian forest. And it definitely wasn't a bear just standing there for a long time.
Probably not. Not like that with his hands down.
Right.
No. Yeah, not. No, Jennifer said many say it's haunted as well. I think that was a location before the Canada comment.
Oh, Provo Canyon, yeah. Yeah,
I'm sure.
probably.
Yeah. So that leads me to go back to you talk about video. You got to talk about the Patterson film. Like, what is your opinion on it?
I'm about 100% that the Patterson film is real. I know that people have tried to bring up claims that some of the men involved said later that it was fake, but I've never seen that from a valid source. And also the way that footage has been scrutinized, I mean, it is the single most scrutinized piece of footage in existence.
Of course.
Even more than the Kennedy shooting.
Yeah.
You know, that's saying something. Just the way that the muscles move in that video and the way they identified a tear in the hamstring and just all the little details, I'm pretty sold that that's real footage. And the people who I've read enough of their work and view their opinion as scientific and logical also share that opinion. Like Dr. Jeff Meldrum is my main go-to guy with all things Sasquatch. I've never personally read anything from him that I don't agree with. Now, granted, I'm not a doctor. Even mentioning my name with him is not really fair. I mean, he's a legitimate scientist that made his reputation in studying early hominid bipedalism, and Sasquatch is, you know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure I've seen him on one of the Discovery or Travel Channel shows.
He's awesome. He's a friend of mine. I've met him on a couple of occasions. He's let me tour his lab and let me ask any questions I want with no time limits on it, and was just completely, with hardly any notice at all, and was just nice as he could be. Came out to lunch with me, let me interview him on camera. Just, if you go to my YouTube channel for Southern Utah Bigfoot Association, we have a really good, just casual sit down lunch with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and we just talk all things Bigfoot for about a half an hour. He's a gentleman and a scholar. I know it's a cliche phrase, but he really is.
That's okay. I have a question. What is your theory or what is your belief on why the Bigfoot is hardly ever or very rarely seen? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a couple different reasons. So it seems like most people who believe in the Sasquatch phenomenon, they either side with one or two camps, or they kind of have a middle ground view. And that's one, that the Bigfoot is a paranormal spiritual entity, kind of like a god of the woods that can appear and materialize and move from dimension to dimension. So a lot of people feel that way. There's also people who believe that, like Dr. Jeff Meldrum says, that the Sasquatch is the North American great ape, that it's similar to a gorilla, and it happens to walk upright because it evolved that way for the type of terrain it lives in. I used to be hardcore on the North American great ape line of thinking, but I'm also one of those people that have come to a point in my life where I think it's the epitome of ignorance to claim to possess any sure knowledge of any one thing. And I am open to the fact that we can only see and hear a very small portion of what exists in our own environment. We know that scientifically. Does that mean that Bigfoot can move between the worlds? I don't know, but I think it would be ignorant for me to say that I am of one opinion or the other. I do believe it is a material being. I do believe it's an animal that exists, but I believe that we are too. And we're capable of things beyond our common understandings, and it's quite likely so are they. That's my opinion.
No, I think that's a good explanation, and a lot of things. A lot of people tie Bigfoot in with UFOs at the same time because sometimes they're generally seen in the same area at the same times.
And there's something to be said for that. Obviously, there must be a reason.
Yeah.
There's 2 questions. We have 2 more questions for you. Are you attending the Phenomenon in the Utah Basin this September?
I just barely heard of it. People, like I'm kind of known around here as like the Bigfoot nerd, so people message me.
Yep.
They're like, really? You're into Bigfoot? Like, because I travel really hard on the road with my music, and I really don't have any other hobbies. It's just what I do. And then people are like, whoa, so you like on the nights you don't play shows, you stay up to like 3 a.m. watching Bigfoot stuff? I'm like, yeah, dude, like, yeah. I'm freaking divorced 40-year-old white guy. What do you think I do?
Gamble at a casino or look for Bigfoot and look for Bigfoot's cheaper.
Anyway, yeah, I just found out about it and I need to check my schedule. I would like to go. It sounds really cool, the little bit I know about it. Why are you going? Let's go.
Jennifer, are you going? Jennifer's a really cool person. She likes to travel a lot too, and she's also an outdoorsy person and likes to do things outdoors. Until she answers back, I'm going to ask James this question. He said, I watched a show called Terror in the Woods every week. What's your take on that show?
Honestly, I haven't heard of that one. And I don't watch a lot of the TV shows about Bigfoot because I think they're so sensationalized and they don't ever really find anything. And I checked out a few on YouTube. I'm like, man, this is silly. Like I would rather see, and I tried to be more productive with it. Maybe in the future I will be again. I do have a YouTube channel. I do have examples of me finding tracks that I'm pretty sure were Bigfoot and explaining why, and getting into the science of how to analyze a footprint and all that kind of stuff. I would like to see more of that on TV. Not saying it should be me, but like I'd like to see people really getting out deep in the woods and showing. And there are some people that have YouTube channels that are awesome about that. Like here in Utah, got to pay my respects to Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. I mean, those guys.
I know who that is.
Dude, they're cool. I haven't really talked much. I had what I believe was a sighting, and I contacted them and reported it, and they were on site pretty quick. And I've seen them as quick as a couple hours afterwards looking for evidence. And you got to respect that,
Yeah.
Hit the ground. And
it's like the EMTs of Bigfoot. They're like, hey, we're on call, guys.
Well, and they explain like what they're talking about. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I mean, like in ways like that people can understand, but at the same time, if you are familiar with the subject of Bigfoot, you respect the thorough and scientific way in which they conduct their research. I think that's really cool.
Do you prefer to talk with or camaraderise with people that have a broad spectrum of kind of like belief, like they're open-minded, or do you kind of like find it cool to debunk or challenge people that have only one very narrow-minded point of view about Bigfoot?
So basically, am I a Bigfoot elitist or am I
I don't know. I just know that there's 2 kinds of people.
Yeah. No. I want to hear everybody's experiences and stories. I think it's all fascinating. A lot of people come up to me at my concerts because I just play little honky tonks. I'm not a big time dude, but I'll get on the mic and be like, hey, I'm taking a break in 15 minutes. If anybody's got a Bigfoot experience they want to tell me about, come talk to me. I even made a bunch of signs up and put them in gas station windows along my tour routes and in truck stop windows. And if people email me, I am so excited. Like, I think it's awesome. Now, granted, I've had a lot of people contact me and I'm like, well, hey, can I come out there? Like, can we meet up and talk about it? Or will you show me around? And a lot of people are like, no, I don't want anybody knowing who I am. Like, I don't want my story shared. That's really common because people still think that, people are going to be like, oh, they're crazy or whatever. And I get that.
Yeah,
I get that. But at the same time, it's like, dude, people probably think you're crazy anyway. Who cares? I don't care. I don't give a
that's
shit.
true. Everybody's crazy in some way.
I want to hear people's stories. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
some weird ones. Don't get me wrong. Like, man, like, I don't know. Now, a lot of the weirder ones I've heard are old Native American legends. They're not like firsthand, like, but
Yeah.
I've heard some
Those are
pretty.
my favorite.
Well, have you ever heard this story? I can't remember which nation of Native Americans it was, but I believe it was either in Northern California or Southern Oregon. There was a Native American story about a teenage girl who was out picking berries with her people, and she got separated because she was lagging behind. And they claim that she was taken, raped, and impregnated by a Sasquatch.
Yeah, I've heard that actually.
It's
Yeah, I don't know where it was. Did you
dark.
say California?
Yeah, I think, or Oregon, I don't know. But I mean, it's interesting. So, like, sometimes you hear stuff like that, and then, like, I'll have people get in touch with me and be like, oh, have you ever heard, stories about aggressive Sasquatches? And most of the times you don't, as far as like actual physical violence beyond like a thing casually chucking rocks at you, which I've had happen to me in Gold Bar, Washington. But you don't really hear much about like really aggressive ones, but you do hear about ones that are psychically aggressive. And that's one thing that even the people that lean towards the more like Bigfoot as an animal side, they talk about this like, I don't know how to put it. Like basically they see it and it's just staring at them and just being overcome with this anxiety, fear, the desire.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I wasn't exactly sure, but like if it's psychic stuff, like
That's
if
the
you
only way
explain it, I can.
I can only call it that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of the way people refer to it as like a sonic blast, like
Yeah,
from the
it's
mind.
energy. It's actually it's like sending its energy or its intent. It's sending it to you, and there's been studies proven. And I actually study how to do things with your mind and move things with your mind, and actually practice doing stuff like that.
That's
But I
cool.
know that if a human could do that, then a Bigfoot could definitely do that, especially if they've been in nature so long. And like I feel like kind of like you were saying, there's multiple theories on Bigfoot, but I think that it wouldn't like even matter if one was right or wrong because they would have evolved over time as more people are hunting them now and looking for them and walking around in their territory. They would have to evolve survivalistically to a different level of Bigfoot, like incognito. I don't know if you want to call it like that.
Yeah. And well, the ability to elude, like we were kind of getting into that question, like I do believe that any animal that lives in the woods like that, like people don't see mountain lions that often, but their range is quite large and their populations are super healthy. Now, however, when they want you to see them, they definitely let it be known. Like the guy last year here in Utah that shot a really cool video of him walking backwards. This one just came down swatting at him, just keeping him
That'd
away
be
from him.
awesome.
Yeah, awesome, but like, oh,
I
like,
think I might have seen that, but I don't know if the one that I saw is the same one you're talking about. But I've seen something like that.
yeah. I think
Uh,
they have the natural ability to elude us. I mean, a lot of animals simply if they stand still, we have more predator senses. We like if something moves, we pick up on it real quick. But if something just stands still, often we won't see it, especially in an environment where it's wooded. Like now, a lot of Utah, it's not like where I grew up in the South. There's scrub oak in the high mountains. There are areas that are very alpine, but not all of it. So there's a lot of videos and sightings where Sasquatch is just walking along through like waist deep, scrub oak for a long way.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I could, I'd love to tell y'all about two experiences that I've had personally.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll try not to get too long winded about it, and don't hesitate to cut me off if I do.
You still have an hour left, or almost an hour. So go ahead.
All right. So I told y'all about being a little kid and thinking I saw one when it was a stump, So the first time that I really think that I saw one, I think I saw one, not 100% sure on either of these. I was in Gold Bar, Washington, and was on a logging road checking stuff out, and something hugged a rock, and I saw the rock bounce across the trail in front of me. And I'm familiar with the fact that, Bigfoots do that, and that was my first thought. Not a man did it, So I immediately look off to where it come from and pick the rock up, and I could see something pretty stout and tall, but also completely covered in evergreen trees, right? Breaking up its silhouette, and everything, making it hard to see. Just kind of standing there, and I just chucked the rock straight back at it, and the rock hit this thing and dropped down like in a push-up position, and in 2 quick movements like that was just gone.
Wow.
Oh, God.
So even if it wouldn't have been a Bigfoot, that would be scary.
Yeah.
Hell. Whatever it was,
If I
like.
remember correctly, I squeaked. I was like, ah, and just like, help.
You should have recorded it.
I was gone. I was gone.
That's funny. We've had an incident where there was a guy on our team and he screamed like a little girl because something touched his leg. We were making communications with a spirit at a tuberculosis place, a sanitarium, and something grabbed his leg and he was like, ah! And he just took off running.
I probably scream, but just pass out.
That's funny.
If we get time too, I got one. So I explore abandoned buildings too. I don't do it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I got one for you on that too, similar. All right, second one. We have a lot of ski resorts here in Utah, and it was the week of Christmas 2 years ago, and I was on my way to go play music at a ski resort, and I had to go up this really winding mountain road from Ogden, Utah, straight up into the mountains to this place called Snow Basin Ski Resort. Okay, sorry, I just had to listen to my daughter for a second. She's super excited about something, but it's good kind, not bad kind. So anyway, I'm winding along this road, and it's snowing really hard. It's a blizzard. Visibility was really bad. Road conditions were bad. And this road winds, and there's a place where you can see this mountain river called the Weber. And there's a spot on the Weber River where you can just see it for just a second. It's right before the Huntsville, Utah exit, Morgan exit. And there was this way out in the woods. And there was a spot where in the summertime, you always see people out there fly fishing, just along the banks, deep as they can cram in, fly fishing. So there's fish there. So I'm coming around the curve. I see that spot of the river, and there's no fly fishermen because it's a blizzard. And I look out there, and I see this thing. It's man-shaped, and it was large, and it was standing with its legs like this. So like it was, keeping itself from getting blown over by the river.
Yeah.
And it was just looking down with its arms dangling like that into the water. And I drove by, and it raised up, and I was like, damn, that was a big man. And I also noticed that it didn't appear to be wearing anything. Like it was all black, and I couldn't make details other than it was robust and a lot bigger than me. I'm not a big guy, but this thing was bigger than most men. And it was just standing there in the freezing river by itself. And I didn't notice any shape of any kind of backpack or it damn sure wasn't fishing, not with a pole. I think it was fishing with its hands.
Didn't look like a ghillie suit.
No, and even if why would somebody be standing in the middle of a frozen river? You know how it goes. So you got to put together all that and be like, well,
yeah.
That was probably, So I'm thinking I'm going to pull off at the next exit, but the problem is next exit there was a bridge and then a turn off, and then finally the exit. So it took me about 3 or 4 minutes to get there. And during this time, I'm thinking, okay, how are you going to determine what that was? If it's still there and it's a man, well, there. If it's still there and it's a Sasquatch, okay. Other than that, you can look for tracks, and determine maybe, so I'm just kind of running it through my mind how I'm going to go about it. I pull off the exit. First off, the snow is waist deep. There's no other cars there, no signs of other cars there. So whoever it was didn't come from the only parking area. And then I look down at the river, and whatever it was now gone, of course, right? But I can see how the mountain comes down at a very steep grade to the river, and going straight up that mountain, no meandering around, just straight up the mountain, about every 6 feet were big footprints. However, I couldn't get to them. Yeah, baby.
She wants to join now. Maybe she wants to join now.
Hair tie out. But I wasn't in a position to here you go, to go search that out because I wasn't ready to walk across a super frozen river, and I was on my way to a gig. But anyway, I reported that one to Southern Utah Bigfoot Association, and they went and checked it out, and they got back to me, and they told me about other sightings in the area within a year of that, and there've been 3 or 4.
So if it had been a person, wouldn't it have been cold enough for the person? They would have gotten hypothermia probably if there was that much snow on the ground.
I think if it would have been a person, they would have had on, like the waders that people wear when they're trout fishing.
Yeah.
But they've been trout fishing. You know what I mean? And when you're fly fishing, just over and over and very.
Yeah.
And you see it, like, even if you don't know what it is, you know what I'm doing right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're playing baseball or you're fishing. They probably weren't playing baseball.
They wasn't doing any of that. But it was leaning over, looking in the water
for fish, I bet.
I think so.
I was trying to fish for dinner or lunch or whatever.
It got me pretty excited, but like I said, that was as far as it could go. So I just went up to the show and played my gig, but of course I didn't forget it, and I reported it to them like ASAP. And I got a YouTube video where one day a while later I was driving by, and I set up my camera as I drive by and tell the story and show people where it was. But that got a lot of sightings.
And you said there were more sightings reported later on within a year's time in that area, right? That's pretty exciting.
On and before it. So there's a valley up there that's really good ranching country. It's just a bunch of hay fields and horses, and it's just a real nice part of Utah, and still very rural. People own considerable acreage, so houses aren't real close together. Hold on, we'll come to that in just a sec. I don't know anything about that. Blind Frog Ranch, Bigfoot. I don't know anything about it. No. I'll have to Google it. But a lot of sightings. And one guy was getting in his truck to go to church on a Sunday morning. And I guess he hit the button to fire up his truck so it'd warm up. And when he went and got in it, he said something like crouched and ran behind his truck. And he saw it go behind a garbage can, and he described it as a hairy man. I was like, that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
It's funny, all these sightings of individual Bigfoots, but I mean, do you think they have go in a pack, like wolves do, like they live in a pack, or I mean, obviously they have young and stuff like that. I mean, just curious how that works. You think?
I think that so from the different Bigfoot experiences I've read about online, it seems that when people encounter them in more mountainous terrain, they are in family units. I think the males go off on their own and cover a lot of ground looking for mates and food. I think they have to walk a lot to find everything they need to keep their mass up. You know what I mean? I also think they're kind of opportunistic feeders, and I think they hunt too, but I think they find a lot of stuff to eat along the way. But I think when you see them down in more like farm areas, they're probably just passing through, usually, I would imagine. Because those farm areas, at least in Utah, are usually in valleys where there's rivers. And I think they probably make their ways along the rivers. They go back in the mountains and come back down as needed. I think one of my favorite videos, the Independence Day footage, that's the one that you see Bigfoot walking from behind the rocks, and it dips down, it picks up a baby and puts it on its shoulder, walks away again. That's pretty cool footage. Some of the only footage that shows a juvenile.
Right. Yeah.
I like those. I like the ones that show the juvenile. Because, I mean, obviously, if they've been around that many years, they have to procreate somehow.
Yeah.
Either that or they reincarnate. I don't know if they reincarnated. They'd still have to have a Bigfoot body to be in. So
Right.
But
Yeah.
that leads into something else though, as like she just mentioned that kind of like the reincarnation part of it. But like, do you think? I mean, obviously they have to bury their dead since we're not finding them, right?
Yeah, that's one of the most common questions that comes up, and it's a very valid one. People are like, "Well, why aren't they finding Bigfoot remains?" And there was some kind of questionnaire done by one of the Bigfoot societies where they interviewed a bunch of different park rangers at a variety of different parks, and they asked them about how frequently they find bear remains, and they're like, hardly ever. And they're like, well, we know there's good populations of bear, so why don't we find more bear remains? And the answer is that everything in nature has its place. When something dies in nature, nothing's wasted. It's eaten by everything else. Even porcupines live off of bones. You know, they find the bones and they eat that. So if you're talking about a species that has a much smaller population than the bear population, the chances of finding them are a lot less, and they're probably eaten like other things are, and it is quite likely they bury the dead. I mean, if you're in an area where it's alpine or pine forest and there's all those pine needles falling, making the ground super acidic, bones don't last that long.
that's true. Also, the only reason people's remains are found so often is because they're usually reported missing, and a Bigfoot's not going to report another missing Bigfoot. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hey, can you go find my hairy friend who's
And you know,
missing?
yeah, and you know where you're looking because you got a report. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
As Jennifer said, she is going to go to that. I think it was Phenomicon. Is that what it was? Phenomicon.
Right.
And she's the one that had asked about the blind frog thing. And then I was going to go ahead and because I
Yeah.
like the numbers to like stay fluid, so I like to address everybody in the audience because they're the reason we're doing this, anyways. Glenn said, "Heard of many sightings in the mountains in Virginia."
I haven't done a lot of like looking around that part of the country, but I got family in West Virginia, and they said there's a whole canyon next to them called Sasquatch Canyon or Sasquatch.
Right.
It's Sasquatch Holler. So usually places that have old names like that, it's because there's an abundance of sightings. At least there were at one time.
Yeah.
I know Virginia is pretty wooded. I wouldn't be doubting that there's a population. Have cousins, Washington States. Yeah. Oregon and Washington are the states. Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Utah. That's like the hotbeds, But then again, like there's parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, anywhere there's woods, there's going to be sightings. What do I think the population overall? That's a question that I've seen people ask, like Dr. others. I don't know enough to give you a valid answer, but you have to think that it's enough of a population that they can maintain the population. So, I mean, they got to have enough to breed. And with breeding of mammals, of course, you have to have enough where there's not inbreeding going on. And they have found tracks that suggest there is inbreeding going on, which would make me think the population is declining like every other wild species on the planet. That's what
or other remote villages that we don't know a lot about that had to do stuff like that also that are probably extinct and their remains are found now, like human villages that went extinct eventually after doing that, and they still didn't succeed.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. What do you think about the different types of Bigfoot? You're talking about the Yeti and all, and everybody sees, different ones.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So in particular, the Yeti footprints look a lot different. They have this way divergent big toe, and then like the footprints almost look more like the fingers are short or the toes are short or curled under, but always that big divergent toe. And then they did a bunch of studies. The Chinese government sent out a battalion to look for Bigfoot. I think in the 80s or 90s, Dr. Jeff Meldrum looked at their evidence, and the footprints they found were very, very similar to what are found in America. And then the Australian Yowie it's described as being very, very much like what's found in America, but more aggressive. And then the Bigfoots down in the South, like they call them boogers or wood apes. A lot of them are described as only being 5 to 6 feet tall, with some individuals being taller. So I think probably variations of the same species, but with a great deal of evolutionary variance, if that makes any sense. Just like people. I mean, how different do we look from each other?
Yeah.
I mean, I look nothing like Ying Mao or Shaquille O'Neal, you know.
Yeah. Or
But
Jason.
I mean,
Yeah. It could be
but
kind of sort of like Native American tribes are, like similar in ways with their cultures and their background, and their beliefs, but they don't all look the same. There's usually some kind of small thing that sets them apart, like as far as their characteristics or their rituals and stuff like that.
absolutely. Yeah, that's one thing I learned after I got out west is like with Native Americans, like I've been through almost every Native nation in the Southwest and have tried to educate myself as I've gone along. And I just realized this is one of those things you're never going to know much about. It's just, you just got to accept that people are people and they're different in every little town in America. And every Native group is different than every other Native group, and they all have really cool stories. And I love to hear all their Bigfoot stories because they all have Bigfoot stories.
Yeah,
And
they
all
do.
or the creature, the boss of the mountain. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. And like, yeah, they do vary a lot. But at the same time, they also they kind of, they kind of sound the same too, like the same encounters or describing the same creature, and there's tribes that could never talk to each other, obviously. So it's kind of odd, how you get the same descriptions. Um, it's kind of like when you have people from all over the world in different ancient tribes and stuff describing like UFOs. It's sort of like the same descriptions or like the same writings, and it's like obviously they couldn't communicate with each other from across the world. So how they have the same descriptions is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's one of those points that you notice, and it lends the rational mind to believe in these things that are not commonly accepted. Like another prime example is pyramids all around the world, very similar.
Right.
And now they're coming to the knowledge that North America has numerous pyramid sites, like under St. Louis. There's pyramids. In Georgia, there's the Etowah Indian mounds, and they're pyramids. Like, you know what I mean? These things are what we think we know about history is so limited. And I think that goes to reality as a whole. What we think we know, it's like the surface, like the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we were talking like earlier about Bigfoot being like interdimensional and like being able to enter and go through these portals or whatever. But if you look at it that way and then you try to explain like Nessie or something, for example, in Loch Ness, how come nobody can ever find it? Because it's like it goes in and out. I think it could, I think it's the same as Bigfoot's a lot of times. I think it could be that way.
Well, then you also have, and I don't know as much about this. It's one of those things I've always wanted to learn more about. But then you also have the aspect of the subconscious and archetypes. Now, maybe these things are moving through dimensions of the psyche of humanity, right? Maybe they're symbols. They're like the gods. They're just ancient metaphorical beings. Maybe there's that aspect to it too. We don't know a lot about the subconscious worlds that we live in. The power of dreams and these whole other aspects to our lives that are just part of the other side. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like a realm that you would see basically shadow people or extraterrestrials or shadow figures or like spirits or whatever pass through because they're not constantly there. They come in and out, and why do we go investigate them and try to get them to come out and speak to us or whatever? Because they're not constantly there. We don't constantly see them. We don't constantly hear them. They're not constantly there, and there's different types of them, different kinds of them, all different kinds of energies. I think that they could possibly. I've always thought about like that being a possibility about them kind of traveling through different dimensions or realms or what you want to call it.
Like talking about it that way makes it a little bit more understandable in a material sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I know y'all probably encounter people that do know a lot about these things. I'm fascinated by them, but I'm ignorant to them. But just the idea of like spiritual realms and all that kind of stuff that goes on, it's just all fascinating. I did want to bring up, y'all were talking about this this place where your researcher got their leg grabbed and screamed like a kid. So when I was in my 20s, me and my friend used to spend a lot of time exploring abandoned buildings in Salt Lake City, where we were living at the time. And one of the times we climbed up this building and went in through a broken window into an abandoned children's hospital. And it was very like Gothic in design and just really, really cool.
Oh, wow.
Really spooky. It sat in the avenues of Salt Lake and overlooked the entire Salt Lake Valley. So anywhere in Salt Lake, you could look up and see this old abandoned children's hospital. And so many young people died there in the 30 or 40 years it was open that it had its own crematorium in the back.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Really dark place. Anyway, we climbed up in it and spent the night in there. And it was very spooky. And we were very surprised when a year or two later they renovated it. And guess what they turned it into?
A children's hospital.
Condos. High cost.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Know that they're living in a place where they burn the corpses of dead tuberculosis kids. Like,
oh my god! That's my favorite place to go is either asylums or tuberculosis places. Those are my two favorite.
I've never been in an asylum, but I imagine that it's got to feel
the energy of the place and like the experiences you have sometimes if you channel something from there. Very weird.
Yeah.
I know. See, I don't think I'm very sensitive to things like that. Maybe the slightest, where like I've had times where I'm like, oh, what's that? And I've definitely had experiences where I'd say I've seen a ghost, but I'm not super sensitive to it like others are. But I could.
That's kind of like Jason.
Yeah.
Jason sees and hears things, but he's not like super sensitive. He says, anyways.
I couldn't imagine walking into it. Hey, we're not going to play the piano right now. We're not going to do it.
Jennifer said, heck no. Glenn said, lots of sea monsters live in the deepest part of the sea, and oceans have just not been seen or found. I actually believe that.
Yeah,
for sure.
They discover them every year. They discover something new there, and the deep abyss.
Well, they're finding new species of lizards and frogs and stuff all the time too. Now, granted, I know a lizard and frog are a lot smaller than a Sasquatch, but they're also not as elusive as some great apes are. Like one of the coolest videos I saw about Bigfoot. There's a channel that I always like to tell people to check out called Bob Gimlin, but he spells Gimlin Gmylan, and he's a guy that just goes through people's. You want backup? Okay, she wants backup, guys. He goes through everybody's Bigfoot videos and like he does really intelligent analysis of situations involving Bigfoot and other cryptids, and he did a video on one where he talked about why game cams don't catch Bigfoot because it's a common question, right? And a very valid.
Yeah, I've heard several theories.
Like he talked about how they did a study in Africa where they put game cams amongst 3 different types of apes. And if I remember correctly, it was chimps, orangutans, and mountain gorillas. And the results of the test were that the chimpanzees, who are more sociable, were captured on camera numerous times. The orangutans, which are less sociable, were hardly ever seen on camera. And the mountain gorillas, which they knew were there, were never caught on camera, but touched the camera numerous times, meaning would sneak up behind it, grab it, re-angle it, go about their day, and then come put it back.
Like a sniper.
Which is smart shit. I was about to say that. That's smart as hell. Like, there, and then how to elude it, move it and put it back. I couldn't do that. My dumbass probably on game cameras all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. We always kind of thought that too. Is like, how do they see them? Are they seeing the light or what? I don't know, but
they could hear it. They could pick up on the infrared. I've heard a lot of theories, but you know, a lot of animals are sensitive to things like that.
I think that it's kind of like sharks and whales and bats with the echolocation and vibrations in the water, like how sharks with their I can't remember. They have a way to detect if there is something like a distance within such a distance far away or whatever. They feel the actual movement of it or they hear it in the water. I think it's kind of like that with a different atmosphere, like a Bigfoot can feel and see and hear things in its home, in its nature, in its setting or whatever. It can hear like bats in a cave or whatever.
Absolutely. Well, and if you entertain the idea of them communicating psychically or sonically, however they're doing it with like fear and nausea and repulsion into somebody from a distance, then that seems like they're manipulating the energy field.
I think they're putting that out probably to intimidate something to not come toward them or to not threaten their habitat.
I would say that's very, very logical and much better and more effective than physical violence, right?
Yeah.
It's like let's say this, like, let's just say like you're in a bar or something, right? And so you see somebody you got a problem with, you know, it's going to be more effective for you to give them a look that acknowledges I see you and I'm pissed that you're here than to run hanging on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I call that your command presence. It's like your command presence. Like, don't blink with me today or I'm going to eat your soul. Kind of like that, you know.
Like for anyone involved.
And I'm sure Bigfoot's even scarier than I would be, you know, because, he's bigger and, he's Bigfoot.
That kind of goes along with the reports of, like, you know, you got these really big, like, aggressive type dogs or whatever that they cower, you know, like within that day of the sighting or like the day after, you know, they're not themselves, but normally they're barking or whatever. But when something bigger, more predatorial comes along, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about like hunting dogs, you know, that are just clearly on the trail or something, and then they're like, nope, done with this trail, where they never ever do that, you know. Like these things will be a mountain lion, dude. You know, you want to hear this stuff? These things
bad word here.
They'll tree a mountain lion, but okay. Well, can you please go do what you were doing instead of crying?
I forgot I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was. Yeah, I think like people that go in buildings or whatever that are like, you know, called mediums or whatever, and they go in a building and they're like, oh, I feel this such and such spirit. It's because they've crafted like that muscle and they've flexed it so long that they've learned how to do that, and think it's mostly starts with meditation. What do you think Bigfoot would be doing in the woods? Constantly meditating, probably, you know, to be one and like to basically be connected to everything around him, I would think.
So, yeah, I agree. And it makes me think of this thing I read. I think it was actually a Charles Manson quote. And he said something about like, you have to become like the coyote, like a holy paranoia, where you're just aware of everything in your environment. And you're not like on the verge of like fear or whatever, but you're quick to get out or do what you got to do to survive. And I don't know, like I always thought that was a really unique spiritual perspective. And I think that everything in the woods is that way, you know, that is spirituality, is awareness of environment and self, you know. Well, then you got to quit moving around. You're driving me crazy.
Gwen says, when I was 12, I sighted a UFO. I'm not crazy. Well, we don't think you are. round and lots of color lights, and was humming. It was there for 5 minutes and lifted from the field by my bedroom window. It's true.
I don't doubt
Where
that
was
either.
this located? Where was this at? We should investigate there.
I've seen stuff like that. So I play a lot of shows down near Lake Powell in northern Arizona, which is in Navajo country, and it's very, very isolated. All around it, it's just beautiful, wide open desert. And I camp in my van a lot when I'm on the road, and I've had I had times where I've looked out the window, about to go to sleep in the back of the van, and been like, "What in the world is that?" I told my friend just the other night I saw these pink and blue lights that just kept blinking on and off, and the thing just stayed in the sky outside my van. I got out my phone, I filmed it, and I ended up watching it for about 45 minutes until I finally just said, "Well, I'm gonna go to bed." It never left. It was just there forever. Didn't move at all, and there's nothing out there. When the sun came up, I was like, "Yeah, there's probably nothing for 100 miles that direction."
Wow.
He said that was in Maryland, St. Mary's County is where that happened at.
Oh,
Cool.
okay.
Yeah. Do you think there's any connection between extraterrestrials, UFOs, and Bigfoot? Like they can communicate with each other and maybe tell each other, "Hey, this is a happening location right now. You might want to come make an appearance."
I don't know, but I wouldn't say that. Okay, you have to stop, Ozella. I wouldn't say that that's impossible, because a lot of people claim to see strange lights in accordance with Bigfoot sightings. I would be curious as to what the connection is. Like, some people assume because of that the Bigfoots are aliens, and
Yeah, I've heard that.
I don't know. I would honestly say if I thought anything was alien on this planet, it'd probably be us. Like, I do lend a certain, how do you put it? I do lend a certain respect to that theory that something came here and mixed their DNA with the DNA of the apes that were here and made us. Like, I think that's very likely and explains a lot about why we're so parasitical and can't survive in our own environment at all, except for like certain primitive, I don't like really saying that, but you know what I mean? Ancient societies did and do, but not us. Not
You mean
now.
kind of like the giant theory or the Nephilim theory or something to that effect, sort of, or
I think there's something to be said for it, for
some
sure.
other Egyptian beliefs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or Roman and Greeks.
Sumerian.
Yeah. A lot of people.
I don't know. It's just interesting.
Right. Yeah, it is. And a lot of people think that the Bigfoot are kind of like their scouts, or even like their protectors in a way in areas. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, all of these things are interesting to look at, and I like to think about all of them and hear about all these different theories. And they're just things to keep in mind as you gather evidence. It's fun. You're good. She's like in that.
My cousin is ET. Just joking. That's funny. Your cousin's my cousin then, because my cousin's ET. No. That's funny.
So as far as around here, I want to do more of it, and I did a few expeditions, I guess you could say. So where I live in Southern Utah, I live near St. George, Utah, and it's like right next. I live 22 miles from Zion National Park.
Oh yeah,
I know where that's at.
But it's real desert around here. But from my window, I can see the mountains where the forest begins. You know what I mean? And like, it's called Pine Mountain. Baby, can you please go play? You're driving me nuts. Go play. No. I don't want to hear it. Go play. Go play. Okay, then sit on my lap and be very quiet.
It's okay. Even if you end up needing to go early, we're not going to be mad. It's okay. Sometimes stuff happens. I've been doing live readings before, and my son came and threw all my tarot cards all over the room.
What do you want
I
to
was
do?
just like, oh my God.
Tell me what you want to do. Tell me what you want to do.
So,
hello.
say hi.
Look,
hi there. What is your name?
Hi.
Her name's Ozella. She's 2.5.
You say Ozella?
You guys yeah, we'll come in a second. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, she's just little though. She's a baby.
yeah.
She was telling me earlier she's still a baby.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
she's a big helper though. Mwah.
Yeah.
I got an antique store kind of booth thing, and she helped me load it up today and stock it, and she did a good job.
Oh,
is it Bigfoot stuff?
Not really. I should probably put some Bigfoot stuff in there. The antique store I have a booth at though does have a big metal Bigfoot outside.
Oh, yeah.
Does it? I have a booth at an antique store, but I put random stuff in there. Some ghost stuff, some haunted dolls, metaphysical stuff.
That's cool.
And then junk too, or candles or whatever. That's
Yeah, I've
funny.
had mine for a couple of years now. It's mostly vintage Western wear and just like little like Native American knickknacks from, like little Kachina dolls and like bow and arrows that people made out of wood and just random stuff I find in my travels. I got a big Navajo spear in there.
Oh wow, that'd be awesome to
Okay.
have. I would like that.
You see some cool stuff out here. Like, it's crazy.
I bet you do,
Out
especially being near the desert or whatnot.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. God, I was trying to think if there was anything else I really wanted. Yeah, I mean, so I haven't put as much time into this stuff as I should because I started the Southern Utah Bigfoot Association. I always tell people about it at bars that I play at, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." I'm like, "Yep, I'm the only member." And they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, oof, that is real nerdy." But
That's okay.
I do sometimes get emails from people, tell me about experiences and stuff. And I travel a lot through northern Arizona, all of Utah, eastern Nevada, western Wyoming, and southern Idaho. So if any of your listeners are in that area and they have any kind of Bigfoot experience and they want to tell somebody about it, or they want to ask, like, hey, look at these pictures, or come physically up here and see this stuff with me, like, I'm up for all that stuff. And I get it. Like, I'm part of a bunch of different Facebook groups, and people are like, oh, we try not to encourage that kind of thing, and I get it that people want to be safe and stuff, but whatever, reach out to me, get to know me. We can meet somewhere public, and if you feel like I'm a cool guy and you want to go show me some stuff, I'm up for it. You know what I mean? I'm a traveling musician, so I've got a pretty good reputation for being decent and safe and so. Oh,
Maybe you should just go jam out with a Bigfoot and see if he comes out. Have you ever played music outside in the woods or whatever and tried to see if it?
yeah, because I had one time I played a resonator guitar with a slide, and I was playing at one time, and a bunch of cows came out of the woods to my campsite. And I'm like, no. And there are stories about Bigfoot being drawn to music, but also the sounds of children. Now, granted, I don't ever have
children. Yeah, I've heard that.
I don't ever have my daughter with me when I'm out doing those things, but I'm like, dude, it'd be kind of cool to like record like just audio of her like jabbering or something and play it, see if that entices something.
Yeah.
Which is kind of creepy that it would, but maybe they're just curious. I like to think.
I think they could even maybe think though that like the baby or the child is like in danger, because deers do that. Like deer will walk up to a really close vicinity if they hear a baby cry. So I feel like it's kind of just like a I don't know, like a mother nature instinct or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it probably depends on the animal itself. Some of them probably want something to eat. Some of them probably curious, and some probably have like, I don't know, some weird, I'll take this thing and it's going to be my pet,
If they're not too feral, maybe.
Yeah. This one right here, she's pretty feral, so she probably would make a good.
She'd give them a run for their money.
She's got a pretty good collection of Bigfoot stuff, though. She's got like 2 or 3 Bigfoot stuffed animals that people have given me to give to her.
Oh my gosh, how funny!
She's got little baby books on Bigfoot. And
that's awesome.
if I point like to my fridge where I have a Bigfoot magnet, like she's only 2.5, but since she was like a year old at least, she'd be like, Bigfoot. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh. It's like, what was your first or second word, Bigfoot?
Yeah, pretty much.
She'll have to watch. She'll have to watch Harry and the Hendersons.
Actually, I did show
Oh my
it.
gosh, yeah.
I show it to her again. I like Jennifer's comments. I'm the only member of my team also.
Yeah.
Southern Utah Bigfoot Association is me. I'm trying to get this lady in town involved because there's a local salon owner that has a Bigfoot statue wearing high heels outside of it. And I'm
And
like,
she squatched.
yeah. So I pulled over one day and I was looking at it and she came out and she was like, hey, are you looking at my Bigfoot sign? I'm like, yeah, I love it. And she's like, let me take your picture with it. I was like, yeah. I'm like, who are you? And she brought me into her salon and showed me like her logo is a Bigfoot wearing high heels and
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Bigfoot stuff. I'm like, you're cool as hell. And we sat and talked for like 20 minutes, but she's a businesswoman. So
yeah, she's probably busy.
Are you running into any more like cryptids? Any more cryptid sightings or anybody telling you about?
No, I haven't. But one of the things too, and I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things too that I was in that fascinates me, but I was also like, I don't know, man, was the whole dogman thing.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people claim that there's these these upright canid beings that are humanoid in the woods and in cities and wherever. And I thought, well, people talk a lot about the skinwalkers, but actually I learned about skinwalkers mostly come from the Navajo tradition, and the Navajos don't really talk about werewolf-like things walking around. The skinwalker was something that it was kind of like a door that the Navajo people opened, like certain Navajo spiritual leaders. Navajo, like they use the word shaman, but it's not. That's man, but that's not what they call them. They have their own word for it, which I don't know. But these certain powerful spiritual people basically said, we've got no more weapons against the white man taking our land and killing our people, so we got to open this dark door, right? And that's when the skinwalkers became a phenomenon. And most of the Navajo people that have talked to me about skinwalkers say that they're more often so the Navajo reservation is full of ravens. There's a lot of ravens out there. So they say some of those ravens are actually skinwalkers, and they're flying around gathering intelligence. They're learning, and then they can come back and put together plans on how to murder and kill and steal and do the things that the skinwalker will do later, maybe under a different form. You know what I mean? But hold on, sorry, it's not coming out. Okay. It'd be weird for a skinwalker to actually be a wolf because there are no wolves in that region. They would get shot right away.
Really?
I mean?
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Somebody'd kill it right away. Because
right.
Yeah.
That goes along with the story at the Skinwalker Ranch about that 6-foot wolf that the guy shot 3 or 4 times or whatever and didn't do nothing to him. Yeah. Wolves don't even come around here, and it's what they were kind of freaked out about,
Right. Exactly. And and that whole Skinwalker Ranch story is so wild. It was almost like anything paranormal you can think of was in that story.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. I don't know what to think about that. It's interesting.
It would kind of go along with what you said about the door that was open, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember. It's not exactly a shaman, but I remember what you're talking about. I know because I study shamanism, but it's something else that's really close to shamanism, maybe right below or right above shamanism, but I can't remember what it is either.
Well, some tribes call him a medicine man or a medicine woman.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, a medicine man.
That's more of a Lakota word, the Sioux as the white people.
Yeah.
But
the shaman is actually a harbinger that can actually cross over spirits and things and energies from different dimensions and to heaven or hell or whatever, or to the afterlife too.
I see. Well, then that term would probably apply to these people as well. I mean, with my understanding of them. Yeah.
I don't know. I know I want to go up there. I want to go visit Jennifer up there, and we can't actually get on the ranch, obviously, but they said that whole area is a hotbed. The whole ridge, the whole area there. So
What
We
they
could
say.
camp out there for a while, though.
Well, Utah's, I mean, being that your interest is in the paranormal, as a whole, there's a lot of interesting stuff in Utah. Um, Utah's got a lot of different cults in it too, and that's one of my subjects of interest is cults. I think cults are very fascinating, and I've met a lot of cult members and have been a cult member. Kind of, I was a member of the LDS Church for 3 or 4 years, served a 2-year mission, knocking on doors, did the whole thing, before I was like, I don't think this is for me. I don't have anything against it, nor do I regret having done it. I just don't believe exactly the same way I once did. You know what I mean? But I put on a music festival on the Utah-Arizona border in a town that at one time was entirely polygamist.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, Colorado City Music Festival.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, like you mentioned earlier, like being the Mormons up there, there's some secrecy around that a little bit too, some.
And I know a lot about that stuff. I've been all through the temples. I've studied it. I've been hired to give lectures on it. And it's really cool because just like any other religion, if you get deep enough, you're going to find hidden occult teachings, and they all tie in to all the other religions as well. And that stuff gets really, really fascinating.
That's what I was just thinking. She read my mind. Maybe we were like sharing brainwaves. We're connecting. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody like the exact name of where they can find your Facebook and your YouTube or your Instagram and all that stuff? Because I actually discovered your stuff on Instagram. I didn't see you on Facebook or anything else.
Yep. So there's the Southern Utah Bigfoot Association, only member. That's on Instagram and Facebook. I don't post as often as I should, but I kind of go through waves where I'll be real good about it and then I won't. But I try to post pretty interesting things that you're not going to see everywhere else. I also have the YouTube channel, which I'd say I haven't posted a YouTube video in a while, but I've got videos of me finding tracks and explaining like how I know there's Sasquatch tracks, or at least I'm pretty sure. Talking about my sighting, interviews with Dr. Jeff Meldrum are on there. And I think I did like a 4-part series of me squatching in the Dixie National Forest here in Southern Utah, and sit out there in the woods with a camera and explain what I'm doing, what I'm looking for, how I'm going about it, so people can learn how to squatch themselves. As far as all my other stuff, Tom Bennett One Man Band is my music. I'm a traveling country singer. And there's also the Colorado City Music Festival. That's my music festival I've been doing every year for 5 years. The next one will be April 23rd, 2022, right behind Zion National Park in Colorado City, Arizona, Hilldale, Utah. And then there's also the Holy Order of Wildlife, which is like kind of all the different cults and different religions I've studied. I kind of synchronized what I currently lean towards through that. And it's all based around the statement, I'm constantly in awe of the great mystery which surrounds us.
That's
Does that show in your music or whatever? Like, do you ever write songs that are reflecting of that?
A little bit. Some of the spiritual ideas come out in some of the songs. Like I got one called If I Could Die Anywhere, which is just about how people spend their whole lives just racing through life in pursuit of whatever they're in pursuit of, and then they never think about the imminent death that's coming, and that you got to live with that in mind, that kind of mentality. And a lot of nature, makes its way into my songs. I travel through some really pretty country, and I talk about it in songs. Yeah.
You said April 23rd. Is that what you said?
Yep, April 23rd, 2022, the 6th annual Colorado City Music Festival. There's a Facebook and an Instagram. There's one other thing I was going to say. Coming to me. Anyway.
Tom Bennett One Man Band.
Yeah. Oh, and I do leather work too. I make lifetime guaranteed custom gun holsters. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, Outlaw Shit Leather Works on Instagram.
That is awesome. What's it called?
Outlaw shit, leather works.
That's what I thought you said.
That's
Very
pretty cool.
Funny.
So my stuff's handmade, and it's
You don't make boots too? Do you make boots?
I haven't tried boots yet. I don't know if I'll ever do that's a whole different level. But so far it's been custom leather flask, hats with like handmade leather patches. I take custom orders, my gun holsters, lifetime guaranteed dog collars that are hand tooled, hand painted. Just a variety of things. Cuffs, like I didn't
Oh
make
yeah, those are nice.
didn't make these, but I make all kinds of cool stuff. I
Those
do
are
custom
nice.
belts, like
I was gonna say, do you do belts? Yeah,
all stuff.
that's awesome. Well, I was gonna put all this stuff in the comments. That's why I was writing it down. Tom Bennett, one man band, right?
Yep.
Outlaw shit, leather works.
Outlaw shit,
Right?
leather.
Is that 2-word? Outlaw space shit space leather space works.
Yeah,
Okay.
outlaw space shit space leather works.
That sounds funny. Okay. Awesome. And then I was gonna put the 6
Wildlife.
Huh?
Holy Order of Wildlife, or HOWL, HOWL. That's kind of the spiritual society or whatever. That we were having meetings at one point. We had about 30 or 40 people coming every Sunday, but I got too busy to keep it going.
Yeah, it sounds like the stuff that I try to do, but I had to kind of taper back and not do so much stuff. It was kind of making my brain just go constantly, and I couldn't even sleep at night.
I know. Yeah, I feel like I was even just thinking earlier today. I'm like, damn, I wish I had like a manager or somebody to like help me like get all my different projects off the ground, because working for myself for 8 years, I make a living. Like I get by. I don't have any debt. I live very frugally. But at the same time, like I've got 5 or 6 really fascinating things I think going on, but not enough time to invest the energy in all of them. I'm sure before I'm dead I will, but whatever. You do what you can, right?
Sorry, I'm typing everything in there. Well, thank you for being on our show. We have only a couple minutes left, so that's why I was getting all the information and typing all this stuff in, so everybody could learn where to follow you and stuff like that, because that's all we bring people on here also, so they can tell everybody what they do.
Yeah, and like I said, please send me a message of like anything's in this realm that you think I should look into. And now that I'm aware of y'all too, and I'll have to more of your episodes, and I love this kind of stuff, and I'm honored that you had me on. It's always fun to talk about these things that interest me, and I always tell people with Sasquatching, or squatching as people call it, the cool thing about it really. Are you counting? Good job.
Excitedly.
The cool thing about squatching is whether or not you encounter a Sasquatch or see any evidence or anything is all secondary to the fact that you're getting out and experiencing nature. And that's going to benefit you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, health. It's going to be good for you. So if you see a Bigfoot and you're out looking for it, that's just icing on the cake. Get out in the woods, enjoy yourself. Life's too hectic not to spend a lot of time in nature. And I need to take that advice myself. Like I get wrapped up. Anyway, my iPad's about to die, I guess, but I better jump off.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's 9:30. Thank you very much for being on the show, and we appreciate it. We will talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, stay in touch. Y'all take care.
Thank you.